Hello and welcome to Parker's Pitstop. Today I've got a very, very, very quick sim racer and also quite a good friend of mine in the last couple of years. His name is Rudy Van Buren. Say hello, Rudy.
Hello, thanks for having me.
That's no problem. So, like I said, we've been together for the last couple of years now in terms of teammates, and you've been around for quite a long time as well in terms of sim racing. How long have you been around, and where did it all begin?
Oh, my sim racing career, I think that would actually go back to like 2008. My go-karting international career stopped in 2006, and then you end up in a bit of a gap. Um, you start looking for different things, and then sim racing was becoming more and more hype, and I got into it. At first, it was just GTR2, good old GTR2. That changed to LFS, and from LFS I ran into R Factor, and well, now here we are. What is it? 9 years later.
So, so obviously you said you started off with GTR2 and LFS, then onto R Factor. Do you miss those days? Do you miss the early days of LFS and all those other teams, right, like NX and some other teams I can't remember off the top of my head? But obviously, do you miss those days, or are you happy with where sim racing has gone in the last couple of years? Obviously, with the esports coming into it as well, iRacing, R Factor 2. Do you miss those, or are you quite happy with where it's gone?
I actually miss the good old LFS days, but that wasn't the period where I was still just a student and had way too much time to spend, so everything you did was LFS, at least for me in that period. Drove every league that was there, every race. You didn't have a girlfriend, no own house, work, basically none. So you just had shitloads of time to spend on it, and it was good fun in that period. Then there was actually quite a bit of, how do you actually say that, less active period for me. From LFS, I went into iRacing and qualified for the DVC. But then they changed the starting time from that, and I couldn't run it because at that point I was already working on Saturdays and so on. So that just blocked my motivation completely. But it's coming back, as you know, see how GPVWC is building, how FSR is building, how esports getting into it with the Formula E going on as well lately. It's getting better and better. I think sim racing is at its highest it has ever been. It could go a lot further, but with things like McLaren just launched the talent scout thing that you can end up as a sim race driver for them as well in their real F1 simulator, those kind of things. It's all really cool that the sim racing community is growing and growing.
Obviously, you mentioned the McLaren, I think quite a prestigious event that they're going to be doing. Is that something that interests you? And all the esports stuff, does that interest you at all, or are you not really too fussed about that?
No, not the esport things are not really my thing. Those were already around in LFS days. The esport was involved in that as well. I know a friend of mine who actually could have won a BMW M6 in that period. So those were big prizes going on back then. But the McLaren thing, I'll probably give it a shot, but it depends on what they do, what sim they use, and all those kind of things.
Oh, okay. So maybe a possibility we'll see you in the McLaren in the future. That'd be nice.
If they extend the cockpit by half a meter, so I actually fit in it.
I think I've got the same problem there.
6'4", so.
Wow, that's a little bit tall. If I remember rightly, you did a bit of real life racing back in 09 and 2010. Any plans to go back on that, and could you elaborate a bit on what you did back then?
Well, real life racing started for me in 2000 with go-karts. First national and European and so on. That ended in 2006. Multiple causes. Main cause, same as what everybody says, money, but there were multiple causes. It stopped for 2 years, but then my dad owned a racing brand in Holland with Westfield cars, which helped to keep it easy, Lotus 7 lookalikes. And at first I was just helping drivers in them, and I didn't have a racing license at that point. I was only 16, so not a driving license either. And I got dragged into that a bit and raced a bit with that. I had a Formula 4 test and a few other cars in Holland, but it never really got off to go back into that. And at the moment I don't feel like going back into it either. The whole racing scene is just one hypocritical, I don't even know the right English word for it, but no, I don't look forward to go back in there. I like going to race events and watching the races and watching it on TV, but for myself, that's a closed book. You come at an age where you honestly find out there's more than racing, and it sounds pretty old from a guy that's only 25, but I've seen too many guys in my racing career go on and jumping out of school at 16 and not making the perfect F1 career while being 22 and not having a single degree at school and ending up as What job can you come up with? Garbage man? That's just something. No, and I'm luckily not one of them. Everything is sorted. House, girlfriend, whatever. Everything is good. So it's good as it is.
Well, that's quite a different view. I think we've had most people in the past, but oh, I'd love to do it. I'd love to do that. But I think that's quite a unique point of view, and quite frankly, fair play to you. Because like you said, you get people who go into racing, don't make it by the time they're 20, 21, and then what can they do? They've got to go to uni, go get a degree, and how can they get a job with that? Like you said, but yeah, okay, that's a different point of view. I like that one. So going back to sim racing, like you said, you're in Super League at the moment with Vodball Racing, and luckily for you and for the team, obviously I'm part of it, so that's woohoo. We're leading both titles at the moment, yourself and the drivers and Vodball in the team title. What aspects of that are going well, and why do you think they're going well?
Well, looking at the point standing, everything's going well. The only downside from this year was Sochi, where I again had a PC problem, which obviously wasn't a disconnect as many people thought. It was just a complete screen freeze 2 laps from the end. But apart from that, everything's good. Teamwork with Risto's good. Team vibes good. Preparation is good. There's not much to change.
So development with the car, you think it's going in the right direction and all that?
Yeah, that's fine. We took a bit of a different direction than the other people, but it does show off that it's the good one. But on the other hand, at this point, there's not that much into the car. I know it's the easy talk to go like, oh, they got the best car for this round and they got the best car for that round, but it's within a few tenths. There's way more to gain in the driver than in the car at the moment.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the Super League's biggest aspects of it. One of the big pros that you can develop the car. But I know Vodball did struggle at one point with car development. Like you said, we've got a bit of a different direction, so one on, one off, one on, one off, etc. And then at some tracks you've been quite low down. I think Valencia we were like the second lowest car, but you still managed to drag the car to victory. Do you think, like you said, the driver is making that much of a difference, or do you think the cars are going to make a difference as the season goes on?
I think the effect will become bigger. At the moment, the gaps are really small. I actually tested a few cars around Austria, and there's like 1.5 to 2 tenths in some of them, up and down. One team goes for weight, the other goes for downforce. So some tracks will suit the other one better. If you take the Wouters, for example, with the weight development on it, it will probably suit Monaco better. But if you look at our car with the front wing downforce, we will suit Canada, and so on. And those effects obviously will become bigger during the season, but for now it's all good. Valencia is one of them, but Valencia is such a typical track. That's another one where the driver can make up more time than the car.
Absolutely, and obviously Monaco next. Have you got an aim for that race? Is it just going to be win, try and get the win, try and lap as many people? What's your aim for Monaco, realistically?
Getting a decent amount of points. Monaco's a tombola. The tires from this year don't help. Actually, they didn't do last year either. They were shit as well. They overheated like crazy back then as well. And I won it last year, so I got that monkey off my back. I can already say I won Monaco, but if you can do it again, I will. Obviously, I want to go for it, but if I go away from Monaco with a good amount of points and just get back to a real track in Canada 2 weeks later, it's all good.
Yeah, like I said, Monaco can be a on-off race for a lot of people. I mean, some people are on, some people are off. A couple of years ago, we saw like 10 drivers retire on the first lap. That's pretty crazy. But what about FSR? Because I know you did the last race in FSR. Any plans to be doing more races there in the coming year?
Yep, coming race seems to be on. Last race it got dragged in pretty late. It was in the Ace division, and they also, well, you want to drive for Matt Cave, we've got a car left, try it. Well, that obviously went well. Took the pole, took the win. But now I want to go on. I want to drive against the WC guys and see how I stand up against them. This time I know it a bit earlier, so they can go a bit more preparation into it. Last time it was all pretty short notice, and that car being that much different driving-wise, feeling-wise, tire-wise, strategy-wise, since I based it on a 2009 car, it takes a bit of preparation. But the next one's Silverstone, and as far as I'm aware of, I'll be on the grid.
Lovely stuff. Would you reckon that'll lead into a full-time drive next year?
I actually had that shot this year, but I said no to it because of the time. The Sundays don't really suit me as racing day, but coming 2, 3 are available for me, and from there on we'll see. Main priority is GPVWC, maybe as well the upcoming ITC later in the year, because I just love touring car racing. But it all kind of depends how the real life around sim racing is at that point, and if I got the time for it. to commit to it properly. I don't want to enter something and then regret myself halfway down that I didn't have the time.
Yeah, I think that's a very sensible idea, because I think a lot of people get dragged down into work and then find up they turn up on race day and then they crash, and then what's the point of committing yourself to something if you can't have the time, or like you said, have no time at all? So I think that's a very good mindset you have going on there. So next question, iRacing. Have you got any thoughts going back into that? Obviously you're into R Factor 2 a lot at the moment, but is iRacing something you'll be looking back in the future, or no?
No. I'm always keeping a close eye on iRacing, but football's not evolved there. I'm not. I've been there. Maybe it doesn't suit my style the best driving-wise. iRacing in general is pretty understeery feel-wise. It takes time to get used to, and it's difficult to hop from sim to sim if they're that different. So no, simple answer, no. You won't see me in iRacing anytime soon.
That's pretty interesting, because I know a lot of people, I think it's quite an interesting chat with you, really, because a lot of people have said, oh, they want to do this, they want to do that, and you've been like, well, actually, at the end of the day, real life does take precedence. I mean, if you need the time to do it, like you said, you have the time to do it, brilliant, perfect, but if you don't, what's the point of wasting all that time when you could be getting a job, getting a degree, like you said, and furthering yourself? I think a lot of people do need to remember that, because whilst we all do love sim racing, and that's all why we do it, we love the sport and all that, make sure you don't get caught up in it, because it can drag some people down. I know a lot of people who have had time off from it because they've been feeling down and have had to, like I said, time out, just sort themselves out, really. And I think having your mindset keeps that danger away. But that's pretty good. What else can we say?
I've been back down that road of doing too much sim racing. I've had my weeks where I actually dropped out of school when I was 16 and went up to 80 hours a week of LFS. Well, go count yourself how much hours there's in a week itself. If then some idiot does 80 hours of driving, then it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it's obviously message from Rudy: don't do loads of sim racing if you can.
Now it's just taking the balance. You got the real life, you got the girlfriend, you got everything. And once in a while you commit to a race. What I do with Superleague and maybe FSR.
We'll go for one more last question then. Speaking in terms of Super League, who would you say is your biggest rival for the title? Obviously, like I said, leading it at the moment, Vodball leading it quite comfortably as well. Have you got anyone you're keeping your eye on, or do you think you're going to be on the way there at the top at the end of the season?
No, but obviously there are a few. Risto didn't show his full potential yet with the bad luck he had in a few races. You got Lee as a threat there always. You got David and Flo if they got everything together. Baldy's going really quick. Friend will probably nail it somewhere this season. So there are multiple guys. You can't point out one.
Very good. I think we'll stop there then. So thank you very much, Rudy, for quite an interesting and different point of view this time. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me.
That's no problem. And this has been Parker's Pitstop for SimNews.TV. Like I said, if you want to check our schedule, go on to SimNews.TV on Facebook and you'll be able to see what's coming up there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.